So I think, Janine, you brought up a very good thread that Chris and Kevin and Chip, who we're going to hear next, hold in common, which is courage. And that sort of belief and that vision that I'm just going to make it happen. Chris is working on these development scales. He's really changing it. Kevin's building houses. And Chip's like doing massive hectare projects. Chip is an incredible champion for this work. One of the first that Janine and I encountered when he was at HOK. He's now at Form Studios. And just 100% convinced that this is the way it has to be. And he goes in and talks to the developers and the decision makers and says, we're going to do this. And they go, okay, whatever you say, which is really cool. So we've been grateful to be along for the ride, and we wanted him to share some of his stories.
First, I'd like to thank you for being here. It's humbling and honoring to be amongst so many brilliant people, and I feel so encouraged by everything that I've heard about the opportunity we can really get this right. So kudos to all of you. And of course, I spent a lot of my career at HOK. I'm a landscape architect. I was the director of their global planning practice, which is an amazing gift to work in like 35 countries that most landscape architects don't get. So I'm really thankful for that. I now work at Form Studio, which is a small design build firm. We're developers, designers, and builders, really looking at a more fully integrated delivery model. So I tried to answer the questions as well. Thanks, Kevin, for that advice yesterday. And
there's an on button on the side.
oh, okay.
You can also use the arrow keys.
I'll just use the arrow key.
Yep.
So anyway, and I'm nothing without my team. I have an amazing team, and I think they're going to get it right too. You just have to acknowledge that. And so our practice, like many of your practices, was sort of dragged in to a number of challenging development projects because of these amazing catalysts of change. And most of the projects that we were involved with initially, although they were impacted by all of these, really had to do with mass urbanization in India and China, and so many people moving from rural environments to the city, this mass migration. But these are all doozies, as you know. And of course, we were doing a lot of large-scale planning, regional planning, and it was rooted in landscape architecture, although we had a lot of disciplines as part of that. And we tried to always integrate natural systems thinking into that as sort of a code. But we got dragged into some pretty hairy projects. And so we were running around doing new cities in Manila, and several large-scale communities in Istanbul and Turkey, and lots of big, giant megacities in Saudi Arabia and India. The early work in Dubai and the Emirates, the Dubai Marina, was an HOK project. And then one that you might know or have heard of is KAUST, which is King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, which was basically a whole new city for 12 million people and a new university designed from scratch that really went from napkin discussions to moving in about 36 months. Or 36 years. Or, wait, 36 months. Yeah, that's right. It's almost unbelievable. It's almost unbelievable. And of course, at the time it was considered a LEED Platinum project, I think the largest on the planet. And it was just an amazing thing, and we were buzzing right along. Then I got a call from Ajit Galopshin to work on this project that you heard a lot about yesterday called Lavasa. And Lavasa is very different than any project I've ever worked on. It's the most challenging and rewarding, but it took the most sweat equity and courage, for sure. And it was interesting because Ajit Galopshin told me, Chip, that's awesome you guys are doing these amazing cities made out of amazing materials for the richest people in the world, the king. But what can you do for me here in India? We're going to build this first hill station since our independence. We don't have the resources that these other projects have. And I was wondering, what the heck am I going to do? And then it was the intervention. All these things that we were doing, and you know, this amazing angel in Ray Anderson, who you heard about today, gifted us with this opportunity to attend a retreat in Vermont with Janine and Paul Hawken and others, the entire HOK sort of board of directors and design team. And this was a life changer for me. So if you said, what is your why, or why did you get into this? I got hit over the head big time here, for sure. Just a quick story I have to say, because it's amazing how lucky I am and how fragile everything really is. So this ended early on a Sunday. We were traveling all over the world all the time. a bunch of us said, let's get home and salvage Sunday night with our family. We all ran to the airport to try to get out of there. There were 3 of us. We went to the ticket counter. There were only 2 tickets. So we actually did a paper, scissors, rock. And I lost. I threw paper and lost. So I said goodbye to them, and I went over like all good road warriors did, and I pulled out my computer, and I started hammering out email. And then all of a sudden, Janine walks up with the same sort of 3-hour wait for her plane and sits down right next to me. I was the winner, for sure. So I attribute all of this to that experience. And we talked about a lot of different things, but one of them was the impact of what we could do at the scale that we were practicing beyond the building, this huge urban city. So one place, I brought Janine down and said, you've got to help us infect this crowd with this amazing gift, and then we're going on, because we're touching so much land, we're touching so much property that we have to do it. And out of that came our roadmap, really our field guide, our trail guide to how we were going to go forward. And so the next thing to do was to figure out, what we're going to do with this, how we're going to do that. And, the question was highs and lows. I stay high, I try to, but there have been a lot of challenges. The first thing that we did was we got Dana and Janine to come join us in a competition that we were doing for the History Channel that we were shortlisted for the city of Atlanta. And the question or the challenge was, what will Atlanta look like in 100 years? And so we used our bio-inspired teammates to help us try to figure out what that was. And it was amazing, because Atlanta, which is a city, turned into a cities of cities, and we learned a lot. Of course, as architects, we try to solve all the buildings as well. But what I think you'll appreciate the most is, and I don't even remember the exact year, but this was the first time for me that we began to talk about ecological performance standards. So part of our submittal, based on 3.8 billion years of research, was to decide that Atlanta in 100 years is actually going to have a code that's measuring and accountable block by block for these important standards. And that's the first time that we really used it. And then that was a short burst of time. We said, we've got to go find another gig for our band. And so I told Janine that I really need your help, because this is a huge development on super fragile land. I feel queasy, but they're going to do something. How can we help them do it right? And of course, Janine mentioned yesterday, it's 27 feet of rain and then in 3 months, and then no rain. So the impact on the climate and everything else is just stunning. So Dana came and Janine came, and they worked their magic, and we walked and inventoried, and we found all the genius in the place that could help us learn, how are these plants storing water, how are we creating these foundations, how are we waterproofing, because when it does monsoon, it comes in every direction. Just incredible wealth of knowledge that we could get. And Janine mentioned yesterday, I won't go through this, these were those services. I always keep a blank one, because I feel like there's another realm in the social world that we could do. I believe that humans are part of nature, and so I called it mutualism, and I measured it in pounds of generosity. I'm not sure that's how you might do that, but we need to get there. The whole time we were doing this project, we were also doing other projects in Brazil and in China and all over the world with Janine and her team and Dana. And we had developed this methodology that we were using called fully integrated thinking. And I think every firm in the world has their wheel, their triple bottom line sustainable wheel. What made this one magic, we thought, is that this integrated life's principles, which was a gift from Janine and Dana and the team. And so we created a methodology, a step-by-step thing that we were going to do. And we thought this would be a really interesting brand. We can fit your house, we can fit your campus, we can fit your city, we can fit your park district, and go on and on and on. And we developed, at that time, a series of lenses, and we married it to GIS so that we could really leverage the data collection and the technology with innovative design thinking. And we created these lenses, and we went down and tried to go through those, each one. So this is an example of not a new city, but taking it to St. Louis and looking at an old city. And of course, we went through each lens. This happened to be water. Here's the water systems as we can map them and understand them. Here's some ideas that we can come up with that would really help. And this was awesome, because this is when the magic that Janine had really hit me again. Because we were thinking about water. How do we get water, collect water, transport water, use the water, clean the water, I was thinking that way. And she said, Chip, you can have all the water. I want all the stuff that you're taking out of the water, because that's how nature would really build. And again, a whole other way to think. And then, of course, you talk about ecological services. When you think of water at the scale of the Missouri and the Mississippi River watershed, and this service that collects at that scale and brings it right to my shoestrings in St. Louis is pretty phenomenal. That led to a whole other conversation about harvesting phosphorus and nitrogen and new economies and new businesses that St. Louis would be uniquely rooted because of the location to do. Then we were perfecting our little fit lens, and we were invited to go back to India and design from scratch another new city for 2 million people. And this time we were able to actually start the project the right way with that. So the other question was, what if every practitioner did this? And this is sort of taking it to scale. And of course, I think you know the answer, and I know nature knows the answer, that we can all do it, and it's going to happen, and it's going to be great. There are other people doing it, and I'd love to marry many of you to some of the work that the Landscape Architecture Foundation is doing. So I happen to be the president of that when we were going through this epiphany, and we were able to start a landscape performance series, which is a website that's really has a number of toolkits and resources for professionals. Like Scott, you mentioned, there wasn't a lot outside the building, and we were trying to create that. And so you can go there, and they have hundreds of case studies, and they have all of the benefits. This is landscape benefits, so it includes some social benefits. But I encourage you to go there. There's also a lot of tools. Maybe some of yours are even on here, I don't know. But it would be a great coming of the minds together for that. And clients are getting it. At Penn State, we're renovating 16 dorm buildings, and going through the process of trying to calculate what was going on, we also uncovered that they spend almost $1 million a year on mulch. And nature would never do that, and we could save them a lot of money. So there's definitely an economy to this that people are beginning to realize. And then just the last question had to do with dreams. Of course, I was privileged to be part of HOK and working with Janine and the team on the Genius of the Biome. And I think some sort of code of ethic or code of design or guidelines that crosses geopolitical lines and really works with nature's boundaries would be amazing. And so I encourage that to continue. We're using at our company a lot of new tools, digital tools, scanning tools. I mean, almost every project that we do now, we're scanning every tree and every branch and doing amazingly collect data. If that information could get combined with your tools, it would be amazing. You probably have it. And then another awesome dream happened when we were able to get Janine to go to the Esri geodesign competition, and we thought this is like the marriage that we need, because Janine has this amazing view of the services and the vice principals, and how do we connect that to really what I consider to be one of the central nervous system for the planet. So we could really combine those two. It would be amazing, and it was awesome for sure. I know there's more going on. And then I have my own dreams, right? Like, I just want to be able to look through a pair of glasses and I want to find all this stuff and have it show up to me so that I can be smarter about this. And I think that's coming. There was this comment about political will. We had this great opportunity that slipped away a little bit. We were helping to prepare for the Obama Presidential Center, which is going to be built. We weren't allowed to work on the project, but we were behind the scenes putting together some of the criteria for that. And we were able to slip into the competition brief that it should be bio-inspired. And then it went on to the competition, and we'll see what actually happens is to come. But one of the things that's really critical about all of you is because the site that was selected happens to be a park site, a famous Olmsted Park. And so this idea of replacing the ecological services from the architecture and demanding more is really critical. And then just a couple more things. Low-hanging fruit. So we were talking about this at our table with industry, but there's 2.8 million acres of this big box manufacturing industrial rooftop that's getting plopped everywhere across the country, and it's going really fast. If we could do a prototype of that, that would be awesome for us. And then finally, a project that I'm working on now with the Urban Land Institute is really looking at St. Louis and the impacts that Ferguson has had, and leaving people behind in equitable communities It's been an amazing effort. And I would just ask, you know, your forest through factory or factory through forest, is there a Ferguson through forest? And how could we learn these immense social issues and get them resolved? How does nature deal with racism would be a first one. And then finally, I have this weird way to look at things, and I was really amazed by Avatar, the movie, and just the paradise that they're looking at. And I mean, that is the dream, right? I mean, you could live here and they can function like that, and just how happy they must be and what they might be thinking about. And I often wonder, like, what the heck are they thinking about our projects that we're doing? And are we doing this right? Are we getting it right? Are we improving? Are we learning? And are we being inclusive for all the people that we need to be inclusive for? So thank you.
That last part is why we're all here, ultimately, right? In that's we want to have that inclusivity that says we're welcome. Well, we get to stay on the planet, and I think that's a really important part that's always good to touch back with, and I really appreciate you leaving us with that, Chip.